the muscles on those ear bones that I mentioned. So we actually can't hear very well. So it really is don't speak when you're being spoken to. It really is important that you don't do that because you can't hear very well. And what you do is you actually hear yourself through your head bones instead. Okay, that's why you sound different when you're hearing yourself speak as opposed to when you're hearing yourself recorded. Just like the other sensory systems, they're exquisite maps. They map that pattern that you've got in the basilar membrane now at the level of the brain. So in the human brain, for example, it's quite a small area of cortex here, the primary auditory cortex and the temporal lobe here. Different parts of this are dealing with ascending frequencies in the same way that the membrane in the ear is. But if you compare that little representation with what you get in an echolocating bat, which really has to make an awful lot of sound information, you can see huge amounts of brain are dedicated to various different aspects of its sound spectrum. Particularly, I'll come to it a bit later, one particular frequency here, 60 kilohertz, which is an ultrasonic kilohertz, which is the actual frequency it uses most to detect echoes coming back from its calls. Of course, the other thing about hearing is it's the most directional sense in many ways, and we can detect, and so can animals, the phase differences of sounds reaching the two ears with the head acting as a shadow. But of course it depends, what sort of frequencies are best for you will depend how big your head is for that reason. And so a mouse is advantaged in the sense that it can hear anything from sort of 12 to 20 kilohertz and less this way, because it's got a small head, whereas we can only hear 2 kilohertz or less, which is a good reason why mice speak with very high frequencies and we don't. It's as simple as that. If you've got a big head, you don't speak with the very sort of high frequency sounds because you can't localize them very well. So human hearing, just to reiterate, is 20 to 40 hertz at the low end and up to 15 to 20 kilohertz at the top end. This is an elephant communicating. Now you can hear a bit of it, but it's actually much more complicated than that because a lot of it is below our sensitivity. It's at a lower frequency. And this kind of sound actually be transmitted through buildings. It is very, very difficult to bounce off anything, so it can go huge distances. That's why these guys can actually, for example, 5 or 10 kilometers up, the sounds, for example, at that kind of distance. Indeed, it's been calculated they have a hearing range, depending on the time of day, of anything between 100 and